G'day everybody, welcome to this Q&A session. You wouldn't believe how many takes I took to get to this state. So, I don't know. Stuff just happens. It's just my brain. It just fizzes out sometimes. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. So, a lot of people have been asking me about a few things and a few issues that they've been going through with their resin art. So, I thought I might just do this and try and help out a few people. One of the questions, how to use the torch and how to use a heat gun, and what's the difference between using those two and the hair dryer. Okay, so I will start with the hair dryer straight off. The hair dryer usually has a really powerful force, so you can create some really awesome effects just by using a hairdryer. Always start from high above and bring it down. Do your blowy thing, and then pull it back up and see what else needs to happen in your piece. But a lot of the times, if you're using a lot of transparent pigments in your resin, or even your acrylic pour, all of those colors will kind of blend in with each other. They'll mingle and they'll create a bit of mud. So you just got to be careful with that. But if resin is good for the hair dryer, because usually if you're being very careful and not applying too much force, you just do the blow and then kind of release, step back, have a look at it and see what happens. Okay, so now that you've created all of that stuff, there's a plane flying over. Haven't heard a plane in months. Anyway, now that has happened, you're guaranteed to get some lacing, some beautiful kind of cells and some kind of feathery effects. So you want to emphasize them. So that's when you go in with your heat gun, because the heat gun it's quite hot, but the force is not as strong as the hair dryer. Hair dryer will just blow the crap out of it. Okay, so you use your heat gun very controlled and create controlled effects. So wherever you can see a cluster of cells or lacing or any kind of effect that you really like, those feathery wispy effects, and you want to emphasize them, you want to kind of widen them and make them bigger and spread them out a little bit, you use your heat gun on a low speed. It's still very hot. Start from up above. Always start from high up and then go down as you go, and watch your piece. Don't just, it doesn't just happen. You just don't just do it and it happens. You got to control it. You got to control the force. You got to control the speed. And if you've got just a simple heat gun, which are the best, I really believe they are the best, because you are using your hand like a paintbrush, really. You're using a paintbrush, and then you go down and you can see kind of spreading. Pull it up and then watch it. If you want it to spread a certain way, then you kind of go sideways a little bit and push it over. If you want that pigment which is closer to you and closer to your heat gun, go further down lower. If you want that pigment to blow over the pigment which is in front of it, go down low, and you're kind of pushing that from underneath up and over that. I'm sure there's a science to it, you know. I don't know, I just go by feel, and I've been doing this for years now, guys. So it's very hard for me to explain how it all works scientifically and technically and all of that stuff. I can't explain to you, but I know the movements, and I become my tool. You know, my whole body becomes whatever I'm using to create whatever I want to create, and it takes a lot of practice. But I wish somebody had told me some of these techniques when I first started. But when I first started, it was just pouring. You're just pouring the colors, and then you kind of just tilt it, and then further down the track came swiping. And I remember years ago when I started adding actual gems, and I didn't even have the gems. I just had some old jewelry, which like necklaces and things like that, which I didn't want to use anymore, and I never used before. So I just pulled them apart and I put them on, and now, geodes. You're getting all kinds of things, but this is how things start. They start by just using what you have and seeing what happens, really. And a lot of the times that's what I do. Let's just see what happens, So a lot of things happen accidentally. A lot of these new techniques, and I've noticed people on YouTube say, new technique, this and that, that's been around for years already. Somebody has already done it, but they've just discovered it, so it's a new technique, and they call it something. All of these things really happen accidentally, because something happened. You spilled your gems, or you spilled your pigment onto something, and wow, look at that, how it worked. The transparency and the opaques. This happened accidentally many years ago, like 100 years ago or something. This painter, this artist, an Italian artist, spilled some paint on his floor accidentally, and he got all these cells. And the story goes that he asked someone, I don't know, it was his girlfriend or somebody like that, who was a scientist, and they researched it, and they did this thing where they say that the opaques and the transparents put together, which is really great if you're doing some acrylic pouring to get those beautiful cells. Use your opaques and your transparents together in a dirty pour. You're guaranteed to get cells without any additives. No silicone, no nothing. Okay, so it all happens accidentally, but it had happened already. It's somebody had it happen to them. So I'm sure a lot of you will relate when I say this, that I've had this idea years ago, and either I did it or I didn't do it, but then somebody else comes up with it, and it's there, and you're thinking, wow, it's just amazing to me how we are all connected in some way, especially artsy people, because I don't know, I think we're really intuitive and we really connect with our inner self. And that's another story for another day. And I know an art therapist is coming out now. However, I do digress sometimes. That's also an artsy thing to do. So, okay, so we talked about the torch. Actually, we haven't talked about the torch. We talked about the heat gun and the blow dryer, the hair dryer. So we're going to talk about the torch a little bit now. The torch is amazing, especially if you want to create cells. But you have to control your torch. I have several different sizes of torches. Okay, so I don't know if that came out right, but anyway, so I've got a small torch, which it's really good because it's just a trigger. You just click on it, and it's a really pointy kind of flame, which is awesome if I want to create some cells with my white, my angel white. And what I do is I just go really quickly and really close. And you may get a little bit of smoke coming up. That's okay. It's just the resin reacting with the heat. And then pull back and watch what happens. Okay, so leave that area, go on to another area. If you're doing like an ocean scene where you got your blue and you got your teal green or your whatever colors you're using, and then you apply your white with a little bit of clear, because clear really helps that white kind of do its thing. And then you're going in one area with your torch, pull back, watch it happen. Don't worry about the time. It only takes seconds really between the layers. And then you go again to your other part of where your white is, just to create those little cells, and that's what you will get with the torch. Okay, and then I've got the medium-sized torch, which is not as pointy, you know, it's a little bit rounded, so I kind of use that one for bigger pieces to do the same thing. And then I've got a real big torch which I use for real big pieces, and mainly to blow out the bubbles, because you want to get rid of the bubbles, and a good way to do that is with the blowtorch. So you need a few tools really if you want to create some really awesome art. You need to learn when to use which tool. Okay, so the big torch I do use for bigger pieces, and it's kind of just a big old flame, and it goes over it. It does its thing. It does create cells and things, and it also is really good to eliminate all those bubbles, and you will get bubbles in your artwork, and you do need to get rid of them. So as a newbie, you're probably thinking now, oh bloody hell, do I have to get everything? Do I have to use my hairdryer? I have to use my torch, all these different sizes? Do I have to get a heat gun? Which one to get? You don't have to get everything. I would recommend a heat gun, because at the end of the day, the heat gun will do all the job of all of the other instruments that you have. Like, people even use the airbrush. I had to think then, I couldn't think of the name of it. People even use the airbrush, but the airbrush is just a little bit, it's just a bit too forceful, and it could really react with your resin. It's good if you just go in certain areas where you want to emphasize certain things, but the airbrush it's cold air, and resin doesn't like cold, I can tell you that. So forget about the airbrush for doing resin art unless you're experienced and you're only going to use it in a very controlled manner. Forget about it. So just get, for all the newbies out there, get the heat gun. Any old heat gun, the cheapest one will do the trick, as long as it's got 2 settings, high speed and low speed. That's what you need. Okay, and if you only got one setting, my video cut out, if you only got one setting, that's fine. You just go a little bit lower if you want a bigger force, and bring it back up if you want a more subtle force. So that's all I'm going to say about this. I think there's quite a bit of information there, and I hope you got something out of it. So anyway, until next time, I love you all, and bless you, and stay safe please, and keep creating. Bye for now.